Some movies were too bold, too weird, or just too ahead of their time. Welcome back to Globewise Entertainment, where forgotten classics get the spotlight they deserve. Today, we're diving into 10 underrated films from the 1960s, movies that flopped at the box office, but found a second life as cult favorites, critical darlings, or hidden cinematic gems. From misunderstood masterpieces to lost treasures, these are the films that prove time is the real critic. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, hit that button now, and tell us in the comments which forgotten 60s film deserves a comeback. Let's rewind the reel and rediscover the magic. 1. The Swimmer, 1968, a forgotten masterpiece of existential despair. Ned Merrill, played by a bronze and confident Burt Lancaster, appears out of the forest one summer afternoon, wearing only a swimsuit. At first, he seems like just another suburban dad out for a jog, but is a strange idea to swim his way home through every backyard pool in the neighborhood. As he dives from pool to pool, smiles fade, old friends become strangers, and the sun-drenched illusion of wealth and happiness peels away. What begins as an athletic stunt slowly unravels into a surreal odyssey, one that exposes Ned's broken relationships, fading youth, and devastating truths he refuses to face. Audiences in 1968 weren't ready for its dreamlike melancholy or psychological complexity. It flopped. But today, The Swimmer is a cult classic, an unsettling, poetic reflection of the American dream crumbling from the inside. It's not just a swim, it's a reckoning. 2. Petulia, 1968. A story of love, loss, and the end of an era. In a city glowing with the fractured light of a fading dream, Petulia Danner, a radiant and impulsive socialite, stumbles into the life of Dr. Archie Ballin, a quiet, recently divorced surgeon. She's the kind of woman who seems to live in slow motion, beautiful, unpredictable, a little broken. He's the kind of man trying to feel again in a world that's gone numb. They don't fall in love, not really. They crash into each other, a collision of two souls stuck between the dying idealism of the 50s and the chaos of a new counterculture. Their affair is fleeting, intense, and doomed from the start. Petulia is married to a wealthy, abusive man. Archie is still tangled in the emotional wreckage of his failed marriage. San Francisco hums in the background like a character itself. Psychedelic, shifting, uncertain. The world around them is changing, but they're not ready. Not for peace. Not for love. Not even for each other. By the time the curtain falls, what remains is a resolution, but a quiet ache, a sense that something beautiful almost happened. Petulia isn't a love story. It's the ghost of one. 3. Point Blank, 1967. The ghost of revenge. Walker was left for dead, shot and betrayed by his best friend, double-crossed by the woman he loved. But death didn't stick. With stone-cold silence and a gun in hand, he came back, not for justice, not for redemption, just for his money. Set against the cold, metallic Los Angeles and the empty beauty of Alcatraz, Point Blank is less a crime film and more a ghost story. Walker moves to the criminal underworld like a specter, unflinching, emotionless, and unstoppable. Audiences in 1967 weren't ready for it. Too abstract, too brutal, too modern. They called it a failure. But today, it's a neo-noir masterpiece, a sharp, stylish film decades ahead of its time. With Lee Marvin's haunting performance and John Boorman's experimental direction, Point Blank is no longer lost. It's legendary. 4. Seconds, 1966. The Second Life of Arthur Hamilton. Arthur Hamilton was a man suffocated by routine, gray suits, hollow greetings, a loveless marriage, and a soul quietly fading in the shadows of suburbia. Then came the phone call. A voice from a long-dead friend whispered a way out. A secret organization that offered desperate men something unimaginable, a second chance, a new face, a new name, a new life. Reluctantly, Arthur took the leap. He underwent the transformation, both physical and psychological. He awoke as Tony Wilson, younger, artistic, passionate, a painter in a sun-drenched California beach town. People smiled. He drank wine. He danced. He lived. But echoes of his past haunted every stroke of the brush. The freedom felt artificial. The joy curated. The people around him, too perfect, too controlled, like actors in a play he hadn't rehearsed. And then the truth uncoiled. Arthur, now Tony, realized he hadn't been reborn. He'd been repackaged, rebranded, sold a dream that came with a terrible cost. Because in this second life, there's no going back. 5.Mickey 1, 1965, The Spotlight and the Shadows. He didn't have a name, at least not anymore. He was once a rising comic in Detroit clubs, the kind of guy who could turn a coughing waiter into a standing ovation. But one night, after a set that hit a little too close to the truth, he left everything behind, just disappeared. Now he was Mickey 1. A new name, a new town, a shadow moving to the haze of 1960s Chicago. He walked like a man haunted by debts, by mobsters, by paranoia he couldn't quite explain. Was someone after him? Or was it just a weight of guilt, of art, of never knowing when the punchline might cost him everything? He tried to return to the stage. The spotlight called to him like a siren. But every mic stand looked like a trap, every laugh a signal. The more he chased his identity, the more it slipped away, swallowed in jazz riffs and broken neon signs. In the end, he stood alone on a soundstage, part of a surreal performance that didn't need an audience, just courage. Maybe he was a joke, maybe he was a martyr, but Mickey 1 finally spoke his truth. And in that moment, lost between reality and absurdity, the silence finally laughed back. 6. The Innocents, 1961. Whispers at Bly. Miss Gresham arrived at Bly Manor just before the rain. The countryside was soaked in fog, the trees whispering secrets only the wind could hear. She had been hired to govern 2 orphan children, Miles and Flora, bright, polite, and too perfect. At first, the manor felt like a dream, roses crawling up ancient stone, warm hearths, laughter echoing down the halls. But at night, the air thickened. She began hearing low humming through the walls and the tapping of footsteps that didn't belong to any child. One evening, as she tucked Flora into bed, she noticed a girl staring past her, at nothing. "Who's there, Flora?" she asked. "No one," the child whispered, "but he's watching again." Miss Gresham followed the stare to the shadow in the hallway. She saw a man, pale, still, and soaked from the rain. The same man from the old photograph in the study. Peter Quint, the former valet who had died last year. She tried to dismiss it as fatigue, stress, but Miles's behavior grew strange. He spoke in riddles, mimicked adult voices. He stood in the garden for hours, staring toward the lake where Miss Jessel, the former governess, had drowned. The ghosts weren't just haunting Bly. They were trying to live through the children. Desperate to protect them, Miss Gresham faced the darkness head-on. But in the silence of Bly, it was hard to tell what was real. Were the spirits truly there, or were they reflections of her own unraveling mind? When dawn finally came, the manor was still. Flora's bed was empty. Miles, pale and breathless, lay in her arms. And Miss Gresham, her eyes wide with horror, whispered only one word. "Forgive me." 7. Ride in the Whirlwind, 1966. The Western that rode alone. Back in 1966, when Westerns were dominated by gunslinging heroes and clear-cut morals, Ride in the Whirlwind did something radical. It stripped the genre bare. Jack Nicholson, not yet the wild-eyed star we'd come to know, co-wrote and starred in this gritty tale of 3 innocent cowhands mistaken for outlaws. With no music score, no grand shootouts, and no heroes in shining spurs, the film felt too stark for its time. Audiences didn't get it. It flopped, quietly, forgotten. But the truth? Ride in the Whirlwind was way ahead of its time. Directed by Monty Hellman and filmed in the dusty canyons of Utah, it captured the raw anxiety of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The cowboys aren't brave, they're just scared. They're not villains, just unlucky. It's less about the myth of the West, and more about the fear and futility of real survival. Today, cinephiles look back and see it as a precursor to the revisionist westerns of the 70s, a slow-burn masterpiece that dared to whisper in a genre that only knew how to shout. Sometimes, the quietest films leave the loudest echoes. 8. The Intruder, 1962. The stranger in the white suit. In the blistering heat of a small southern town, the air was thick, not just with humidity, but with hate. The schools were finally desegregating and the town was on edge. Then he arrived. A clean-cut man, in a crisp white suit, charismatic, smiling, shaking hands. He said his name was Adam Kramer, and he claimed to be there to help preserve American values. No one questioned his charm, until he started speaking at church halls, school board meetings, and on street corners. With each word, he planted seeds of fear. His speeches stirred something dark in the hearts of the townsfolk. Where there had been cautious progress, now there was fire, violence, mobs. But one teenage girl, Ellie, saw through him. She'd heard his northern accent slip. She'd seen him smirk when a local man was beaten. She knew he wasn't from the South. He wasn't from anywhere around here. He was an intruder. She dug into his past, followed him, listened. What she uncovered was terrifying. Kramer didn't care about the town or the people. He thrived on chaos. Racism was his tool, not his belief. He was a man without a soul, feeding on division. Ellie confronted him in front of the townspeople during his next rally, voice trembling but loud. He doesn't care about you. He's not from here. He's not for you. He's a stranger stirring hate and walking away clean. The town paused. Some didn't believe her, but others saw the flicker of guilt, or was it rage, on Kramer's face. The crowd began to thin. His grip slipped. He left town as quickly as he came, his white suit no longer spotless. Based on Roger Corman's bold and controversial 1962 film, The Intruder, starring William Shatner in a chilling, uncharacteristic role, this forgotten gem tackled racism head-on, years before Hollywood dared. It flopped, but today it stands as a courageous, unsettling piece of American cinema. 9. Chimes at Midnight, 1965. The masterpiece that nobody saw, until it was almost too late. Orson Welles poured his soul into Chimes at Midnight, a bold patchwork of Shakespeare's plays, centered around the tragic, comedic figure of Sir John Falstaff. Broke, exiled from Hollywood, and desperate to create, Welles scraped together funding across Europe. Even shooting seemed guerrilla style when the money ran out. The film flopped hard, barely distributed, misunderstood by critics, and butchered in some markets. It seemed destined to fade into obscurity. But beneath the chaos was genius. Today, Chimes at Midnight is hailed as one of the greatest Shakespeare adaptations ever filmed. Its battle scenes were raw and revolutionary. Its heart, Welles' aging, lovable Falstaff, deeply human and heartbreaking. Welles called it his best film. He might have been right. Sometimes, history just takes a little longer to catch up. 10. The Haunting, 1963. The Haunting, 1963. A house that listens back. They came to Hill House for science. For strangers bound by curiosity, stepped into a crumbling mansion nestled deep in the New England countryside. Dr. Markway, the scholar of the supernatural. Luke, the skeptical heir. The witty Theodora. And Eleanor, timid, wounded, and quietly desperate to belong somewhere, anywhere. But Hill House had been waiting, watching, listening. As nights grew colder and the walls whispered secrets, Eleanor became the center of the storm. Doors slammed shut without warning. Ghostly knocks echoed in the darkness. And something unseen pressed its weight against the bedroom walls. Yet no blood was spilled. No spirits appeared. It was what you didn't see that terrified. Audiences in 1963 were puzzled. There were no jump scares, no ghastly ghouls, just shadows, silence, and the slow unraveling of a fragile mind. The film flop, dismissed as too quiet, too strange. But today, it's hailed as a masterpiece of psychological horror. where fear creeps like a draft and madness dances in the corners of your eye. Because sometimes the scariest ghosts are the ones in our heads. And there you have it, 10 underrated gems from the 1960s that the world once ignored, but we still can't stop loving today. Movies may flop at the box office, but true cinema never dies. It just waits to be rediscovered. Which one of these forgotten classics is your favorite? Or did we miss a hidden gem you love? Let us know in the comments below. We're always up for a great film recommendation. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more deep dives into lost treasures, cult classics, and cinematic surprises. Until next time, keep watching and keep wondering what else history left behind on the cutting room floor.